Assalamu alaikum, my name is Dr. Wajid Akhter. I'm the Secretary General for the Muslim Council of Britain. So what is Vision 2050? Any society, any group of people without a goal, without a destination, without a vision are going to struggle. And you see this whether you're talking about nation states, whether you're talking about communities within a nation state or globally. And right now, the feeling was that the Muslims in the United Kingdom lacked a vision. And that lack of vision permeated every sector of society. So when you see the rise of Islamophobia, when you see problems with employment, when you see international problems like Gaza taking place, we are constantly reacting rather than being proactive. We're constantly being on the back foot. And the leaders of the community fail to provide a positive, inspirational vision or destination for us to reach for. And that's why what you have is people saying, well, it's time to move, or people talking themselves down, or not even looking for solutions. There's that great saying where, the people need a lighthouse on the shore, not another companion in the shipwreck. And we tend to be adding numbers to that companion in the shipwreck, in the darkness. So Vision 2050 was all about providing an inspirational, positive, affirmative view of where the Muslim community can be, will be in 25 years' time in this country. And like any vision, it's not a roadmap necessarily. You need to develop the roadmap, how to get there. There are probably 1,000 different ways to get there. And it may be that different people will play different roles, different organizations will have different skills to bring to the table to help us get to 2050. There may be different strategies employed. What we're saying is that's the destination, that in 25 years, this community is going to go from being reactive to proactive. This community is going to go from being the most disliked to an integral part of what it means to be British in the next century. This community is going to go from being at the bottom of every socioeconomic indicator that there is to being at the top of it. And we are positively affirming that inshallah, we are going to marshal our resources, our energies, and our talents to getting us there. If I was to break down Vision 2050 into component parts, we almost have a 3-stage process to get there. In order to get there, step 1 is to reform the beating heart of the Muslim community that brings us all together, the unifying platform to unleash the power of our iOS so that all the apps on our system can make sense, if I was to use a technical example there. And that would be the Muslim Council of Britain. The Muslim Council of Britain itself is that umbrella body, the unifying, coordinating platform that is acknowledged by the widest possible sector of the community. It has been around for 27 years. We need to unleash the potential. We need that heart of the Muslim community to work and work well. So that organization needs reformation and needs to be fit for purpose to do what it needs to get us to Vision 2050. The next step is, once you have that heart working very well, is you need the key organs, the vital organs of the Muslim community to come together, the infrastructure. So you need a pillar of the Muslim community focused on healthcare. You need a pillar focused on legal, on journalism and media, on education, on the mosques. So there are various pillars, various sections and structures of the Muslim community that need to be built up. It doesn't mean that the MCB needs to build all of those. It needs to partner with those who are already doing fantastic work in those areas. It needs to upskill them. It needs to work with them. It needs to be able to uplift them so that we have those pillars built up. And we're calling that Horizon 2035, that by 2035, the different pillars of the infrastructure of the Muslim community, the different vital organs that we need for this body to come to life need to be in place, need to be functioning, humming in tune with each other, with that heart at the center of it. And then finally, from 2035, we're a hop, skip, and jump away from delivering Vision 2050, where we go from the community that has the worst levels of healthcare, of education, of employment, worst levels of prison uptake, and whatever it may be, to the best levels in every single goal, in every single sector of society, data-driven and focused to get there, inshallah. That's another fantastic question about how do we see that journey? Is it a political one? Is it economic? Is it social? Is it spiritual? It's all the above. Our new slogan or vision is unite, empower, serve. And what do we mean by, unite? We mean uniting everyone. We mean uniting Muslims, but also non-Muslims with us. But non-Muslims are better able to unite with us when we are united, right? There's, a saying by Malcolm X. I'm going to quote him a lot because it's, his day. But he said, you can't have black and white unity until you first have black unity, right? That's the same here. Until the Muslims are united, I don't mean uniformity of views, I don't mean 100% unity, you never get that. But until there is some semblance of an infrastructure, some semblance of a coherent whole, until the moral majority has some level of a platform where they coordinate and work through, then every unity with other bodies is not really unity at all. We're just tagging on to the end of them. And we saw this through many different initiatives where, such as recently, the recent election, you had Muslims coordinating much more during the elections, you had Muslims coordinating during the genocide in Gaza, COVID. And so bodies like the NHS or allies like Stop the War Coalition or Stand Up to Racism were better able to coordinate with us because they saw us as a coherent whole rather than random mosques and random individuals in different places. It involves all those sides. If it doesn't involve all those sides, then we become lopsided. We become a community that's not fully whole. We are a spiritual community, but we have an economic base and a backbone, and we need to look into that. We also have our own regional needs and infrastructures, the needs and wants of a Muslim, in the north of Liverpool will be different to someone in the south of Brighton. But we need to cater to all of those. And that's what a united infrastructure would do. It's not about making everyone become an amorphous blob. It's about bringing that diversity to life by giving an infrastructure for that diversity to thrive in. The generational gap that's existing in the Muslim community is a dangerous one. Like the class gap, like maybe the spiritual gap, like many other gaps that are developing, each one of these gaps have the potential to move from fracture to full-on schism. And that's not hyperbole, that's very much likely if you don't change the situation. And this is all a function of the lack of any coherent structure in the Muslim community. If you had a coherent structure where you were able to model and not impose, but to highly incentivize models of governance for organizations, then it would be impossible for someone to stay in charge for 20 years in a row or 10, 30 years. You would have regular elections, you would have transparency because you have an infrastructure, and an infrastructure would be built in a way that preserves not power, but sustainability, preserves the interests of the community. But without infrastructure, what happens is that everyone does whatever they want. There's no one to hold anyone else accountable. So the people who build the mosques are still running the mosques, even though those two skill sets are very different. And the people who want to build a charity have no one to stop them. So we have thousands of Muslim charities. We don't need them. Let's be honest. Having 1,000 Muslim charities, which are by and large very similar to each other, serves no one's benefits. It's not the benefit of the beneficiaries, it's not the benefit of the Muslim community. It's really only in the benefit of the people who are setting up these charities. And every two people who get together will say, I'm starting my own charity. Why? It's not in the interest of the Muslim community. Why do we have 8 mosques on one stretch of road in Leicester? 8 mosques, it's madness because they literally disagree with each other. Why are we in a situation where our young people feel like they have no say and no interest in what the legacy Muslim organizations are building? And so you get this imbalance. The best way I can explain it is we are a community that has maybe more than 50,000 Muslim doctors and the worst healthcare. We're a community which has the most number of MPs out of any minority, but the least political power. We're a community that has the most number of young people with the least number of young leaders. None of these things make sense unless you realize that actually without infrastructure, everyone is making a separate piece. So the way that the MCB hopes to overcome the class divide that's riddling the Muslim community as we speak is, again, not just reach out to them, because that implies that we are separate to them and we're doing outreach work. We drive in our nice cars and then we go to a soup kitchen and then we make ourselves feel good and we drive out. But actually to become more reflective of them. They need to see the MCB as their organization just as much as someone who's doing really well. They need to find that common ground here and address their concerns. Something that Zoran Mamdani's done really well. We've been analyzing him. We've had actually a team member go and be part of his campaign for a few weeks to learn from them, is that you need to speak to the needs and wants of the majority of your people. And then they don't care if you are pro-Palestine or if you're, everything else becomes secondary because you are helping them. That's what matters. And the majority of our people are struggling with what? Housing, NHS, the economy, jobs. And if all we're talking about is Gaza, Islamophobia, where's our strategic plan, theory of change, policies, we're living on a different planet from them. We're in our ivory towers. And this is a huge problem that I've seen, we've all noticed in the Muslim community. We look around, right? Like the people who come to these type of events, if you look around the room right now, even if you're watching this online, it will be people who are in the more elite sections of society. We went to the better schools and the better universities. The minute we get enough money, if we are from those areas that are deprived, we move out. And then it becomes easy to say, well, it's not us, it's them. But to be honest, we're all tarred by the same brush. We're part of this community and we either sink or swim together. So the strategy of kind of making ourselves the elite 1% of society that hopefully can control and speak on behalf of and represent the 99% unwashed masses, it didn't work in the British Raj and it won't work now. We need to be able to authentically represent them by being part of them. They need to be on our team, so they need to feel like they can access our team. So that might mean that maybe a few less leadership dinners in 5-star hotels. I think to myself, and I know the MCB has done this, and I know why we've done this, I know the need for this, but I ask myself, if I was from one of those communities where I was struggling, my kids were going hungry, and I saw the Muslim Council of Britain put on an event at a 5-star restaurant a hotel in London with VIPs taking pictures of each other, and that event cost £20,000-30,000, I would spit in my face. I would be that furious. How dare you say you represent me? And now I know we can make the case that, we need to reach out to the government and we need to reach out to policymakers, and this is where and I get it. And it would be fine if you were also doing the other side of the work, if you were also doing something significant to alleviate unemployment or to deal with issues around safeguarding and lack of opportunity in marginalized communities. But when you're not doing that work and you are doing that policy work, you're not going to be representative. So we are very deliberately, I say, changing our qibla from the government and people in power and for legacy media to the grassroots, our people, new media, podcasts, those kind of things. Like we're changing our qibla, like from Jerusalem to Makkah, we're changing our qibla now, and we want that to be reflected in everything we do, inshallah. The more democratic, lateral, the more shura-based, the better. We have our own models, and what we're trying to do is turn from the Muslim Council of Britain to a more regional body as well. So we want a Muslim Council of London, Muslim Council of the North, Muslim Council of the Midlands, because it's a little bit closer to the ground. Eventually, from the grassroots up, and we see this already happening, there is a Muslim Council of Cambridge, there's a British Muslim, Bristol Muslim Strategic Leadership Group in Bristol, so in Greater Manchester Forum. So individual cities and towns will make their own councils, which will not just be of the usual suspects and gatekeepers. You will have women, you will have refugees, you will have young people, you will have scholars, you will have academics, you will have professionals that make up this council so that people coordinate on the local level, on the regional level, and the national level. And the Muslim Council of Britain will be rebuilt from the grassroots up so that it's able to not only be more representative, but also so that it has more of an impact. Right now, even if we say something, nobody will hear it. It has no weight on the ground. But if you actually build this infrastructure from the grassroots up, and you have a national coordinating layer, a regional coordinating layer, and a local coordinating layer, then when we say something, we say this is an issue of strategic national importance for the Muslim community, it actually filters down because there's an infrastructure for it to filter down. There's a network from which it goes from national to local and vice versa. Being locked out of government is only one part of the puzzle. I know it's very important to a certain section of our society, and it's important to the MCB. But we can control what's in our hands. So our ability to empower our community, our ability to reach out to our community, to inspire them, to chart a way forward for them, is independent of the government. I mean, if the government was on side, it would bring some benefits, it also bring some risks and problems associated with it as well. So there's almost nothing that we want to do and that we need to change in the Muslim community that we cannot do, that we do not have agency, we do not have the ability to do within ourselves, just because the government doesn't speak to us. We showed that during COVID. The government didn't speak to us during COVID, refused to during a national crisis, in national emergency. They said we still would. I will never ever forget that. I don't think we should let them forget that. I wonder how many people would be saved, how much benefit would have happened in this country if they were willing to speak to the Muslim community, but instead they decided to play politics over saving lives. So the government does matter, it will always matter, it's important, but it is not the be-all and end-all of our community. Otherwise, that would be taking away agency from ourselves, much like what happened during the Raj, where everything that we did and everything that we could do was measured in relationship to the great colonial power, and we basically lost all of our drive, our inspiration, and our ability to deliver. We're a legacy organization that's going on a startup journey. We're reframing and reimagining ourselves because we want to. We live in a different age to the past, right? The organization we built so far is an analog organization in a digital world. The organization we built is an organization that was built by a community of elders who were first-generation immigrants, which is now existing in a community that is majority born and brought up here. An organization that was built at the time of the Cold War, which is now, or just after the Cold War, post-Cold War world, which is now living in a completely different geopolitical context. So we need to reinvent and rethink ourselves. We do want to have a relationship with the government, but it's that we want a relationship, not necessarily of equals, it'll never be equals, they'll be the government, but a relationship where we are not just there to say, yes, sir, thank you, sir, how high do you want me to jump, sir? We want to have our own backbone, our own interests, our own heft when we come to the table, rather than just being servants sat at the side. Last year, the average number of voters in a constituency was about 60% voter turnout. In the Muslim community, it was about 50%. And that was during a genocide. It's shocking. We need to change that. We need our community to be more politically engaged. We need them to be registered to vote. We need to get them out to vote. We need them to have a deeper understanding of local politics, of regional and national politics, because politics are being devolved. And we certainly want that infrastructure to be developed. I remember I was in America on July the 4th, and I was watching the fireworks, and my cousins turned to me and said, "When's your Independence Day?" And I was taken aback, and I said, We don't have Independence Day in England. Britain, because of Britain, the rest of the world has Independence Day. We have bank holidays, right? This country, I know the legacy of colonialism is something that we need to grapple with, we need to understand and unpack. But this country has a great history. I mean, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, the abolition of slavery, and so many different things that this country, building the NHS, fighting 2 world wars, defeating fascism, and the way that they did that. The history of this country is pretty amazing. And we've got into a situation where, especially Islamophobes, but the country as a whole, has lost its self-confidence, where we feel like our best days are behind us, where we look back at all those great achievements, whether it's Nelson at Trafalgar or Montgomery in Europe, and we look back at that and say, we can't recognize those people, and we're a different generation. And I hope that if we play our cards right, if the Muslim community, the young generation, the dynamic Muslim community, a community that's forged in the flames of Islamophobia, that's growing internationally and manages to overcome it, and not only overcome it, but build a better vision for society than exists right now, that we will be able to make Britain not necessarily go back to the glory days, but we'll be able to make Britain, again, a leading light amongst nations. And the Muslim community will have played not just a bit part role, but a key role in making that happen.